I mean, my purpose and our purpose was really to slowly warming up in the topic of peace education and peace pedagogy, and really at the beginning to have a common understanding of what we mean under peace pedagogy, peace education, or even peace building. I mean, it's difficult in our sector always to differentiate the three terminologies, which are very similar depending where we use it. But at educational, in the educational field, peace education, peace pedagogy, and part of peace building can be considered as, I would say, one common term. Understanding of peace education and the approaches and concept. I want to share with you, in fact, a synthesis of two important papers. The one is the forumZFD key areas of engagement, a document which gathers forumZFD approaches, but also forumZFD partners approaches all over our programs in the world where we are acting. A second paper is the research article called Pedagogy for Peace Building in Higher Education, and why should higher education institutions get involved in teaching for peace. So I based our now understanding of peace education and approaches on these two important documents. I mean, what is peace education? This, of course, I think the first question that we all ask. In these two papers, and if you compare them, you could find out that how it's defined peace education. It's in fact the process of promoting the knowledge, skills, attitude, and values needed to bring about behavior changes that will enable children, youth, and adults to prevent conflict and violence, both overt and structural. Overt, direct, personal violence, and so on, and structural, which is, of course, very much related to more structures that you find in systems and in government systems, in social systems, and so on, like discriminatory systems and so on. So in order to resolve conflict peacefully and to create the conditions conducive to peace, whether at an intrapersonal, interpersonal, intergroup, national, or international level. This definition is a very classical one, a very important one, forumZFD aligned with, and it's the one you can find also at UNICEF level. But what are the aims of peace education, now that we have some kind of definition? It's to mainstream nonviolent conflict transformation and principles and theories. It's to providing teachers and learners with the needed tools and skills to discuss and understand conflict and enable them, the teachers and the learners, here the students and others, to take an active role in resolving and transforming conflicts in their direct environment, their communities, and the society as a whole. And how to reach these aims? There are, of course, many of approaches. In these two papers, we identified some common approaches in helping people develop habits of peace and how the citizens and leaders of the future might be helped to understand the meaning and importance of peace building. So here, peace building to understand also in the context of peace pedagogy and peace education. Peace building is much broader also, but here is peace building supported by peace education. So as I said, a very differentiated and different approaches. One is, of course, to approach and to work with formal and non-formal education. Why? Because formal education sectors provides the opportunity to introduce the principles of nonviolent and conflict transformation to an entire generation of students. And also because teachers are per definition natural multipliers of knowledge. And here knowledge and I invite you also to explore a little bit more what is meant also knowledge in the paper of the research article, because there you will see that it's also paid attention to us that there is the inner knowledge of selves, but also the outer knowledge of the world. So this intra and inter personal. But also it's very interesting too, you will further read the difference when it comes to knowledge between the idea of rigorous professional knowledge and an awareness of indeterminate empty zones of praxis. So we know in our practice, and you know also that all teachers are different and they may apply also according to their creativity or spontaneity or improvisations or also some other experience, not always stick to the rigorous professional knowledge as is maybe indicated in the curriculum and so on. But we will also find a lot of teachers who or zones where practices are also different. But also not only the formal education sector as approach, but also to approach the non-formal sector, because many other actors outside the schools are agents for peace too. They have also knowledge, sensibilities, experience, and they have also shared responsibilities towards education for peace. Not all the responsibility is on the back or should be on the back of teachers or peace educators. A second important approach is more here a group of approach, is that to focus on inclusive, holistic, systemic, and collaborative approach, to connect with actors from non-formal, non-academical education, cultural, social sectors, parents association when it comes to primary or high school students, social centers, home, cultural associations, sport clubs. I mean, we have here also in you participating in this summer school, you also showed in the variation of you in your work, you are not all teachers, you are also educators of different other sectors, from cultural or social. So, and this is also important to connect, to see it also as a systemic social approach. And of course, the educational networks, create educational networks with communities affected by violence or at risk. If we want also to solve some or to prevent some concrete problems. There's also a very important quote in the research article, very, very interesting one, is the two phases of education in ethnic conflict. When we approach communities affected by violence, be aware that there are two phases, that education can either promote or undermine understanding, equality, and social cohesion, depending on what policies and approaches are adopted. So more approaches is the multi-faced or cross-disciplinary approaches. I think also very important. A lot of you are English teachers, language teachers, history teachers, and so on, or dealing with religious topics and so on. But they might be also in this teaching, in teaching this kind of topics, also space and opportunities for peace education. So it's important also that the approach is diversified and throughout different school subjects. That is not only the responsibility of civic education topic or subject in school, or history in school, or religion in school, and so on. So we will see this also later, and I'm sure that you're also doing this in your field, even being math teacher or English teacher. And also learner-oriented, teachers, capacity building oriented. Take in consideration the needs and resources of the learners, here the students, and the teachers or educators themselves, valuing the knowledge, skills, talents, and experience they bring with them, and creating a space where this can be shared and transformed in civil actions. So activism, critical thinking or consciousness, multi-perspectivity, and also, as in the research article said, spaces for socialization and reconstruction in relation to conflict. There is a quote from Aristoteles, I like it very much because he said the end goal of knowledge, or the end goal of any science, in this case, if peace pedagogy is a science, maybe not exact one, but for sure a science. So the end goal of any science is not knowledge, but action. Another approach is adapt our contents, methodology, or purpose to local generated approaches, other local generated approaches to peace building and conflict transformation. Locally, in each local municipalities or situation, there might be also different approaches generated by themselves, by the specific localities and so on. So it's important also to adapt our pedagogy, if you want, also to this situation that we find in the field. And of course, also connect with the research work in order to bring further and to improve and to research deeply also the developments and evolutions during the years and the new findings. So if we have to summarize now a little bit, we can say that the peace education or peace pedagogy is teaching and learning and acting. Why around a cup of tea? We will figure out in a couple of seconds. So peace education is teaching and learning and acting about contents, methods, principles, and attitudes of civil conflict transformation and prevention of violence. Not only about, but also for what? For a world community which does not resort to violence when dealing with disparities. And you see, peace education is at the end teaching, educating, and acting for peace. A cup of tea, PEA, if you want, to become ours. In this sense, we all know this sentence, of course, how to think about peace education, peace pedagogy without Gandhi. So there is no way to peace. Peace is the way. Peace is the goal and the method. And it's also very strange when I prepared this because immediately it came in my mind, Latin quote you all know, no? Si vis pacem para bellum. If you want peace, prepare the war. Today, a lot would say if you want peace, make war, not only prepare it. So, and this is also very interesting because I had a very good Latin teacher, and I remember him as a Latin teacher, very professional, skilled one. But in this sense of cross-disciplinarity or multi-phases role of a teacher would also now, I imagine that it would also help me a lot if while he was asking me to translate this, maybe also just ask me, what do you think about this sentence? And this question I didn't have the opportunity also to raise. I know just that I translated, I guess, very well. But there's another sentence of Gandhi, which I think can be also very inspiring for all of us. The difference between what we do and what we are capable of doing will be sufficient to solve most of the world's problems.